Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how to replace a center support bearing. As you can see, this one is bad itself. Too much play, vibration during acceleration. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the thumbs up, and comment below to let me know how I did on this job, or if you have any questions. So first thing what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and take off the U-joints right there. Those are going to be 11 millimeters. Then we'll take off the center support bracket. We're going to unbolt it from up top. Those are 15 millimeters. And then we're just going to slide it right out from the tranny. Now before we go ahead and take this off, make sure you have your emergency brakes on and make sure you have some wood blocks that are holding the tires in place from either rolling back or forward. So we're going to mark right here on the drive shaft itself and on the yoke part. And then we're going to go ahead and take off our bolts. We can loosen them right now. So before we loosen up this bolt, I'm going to make sure I take that guy out. And before I pull it out, I'm going to make sure that I have a little catch pan right there so it could catch all the tranny fluid, whatever little tranny fluid that leaks right out. I'll just take off these top, just 2 bolts, and make sure that the top ones are loose so that these guys can fly around. Now if this guy's stuck, you can get a pry bar or a flathead and just kind of wedge in between and just pull back to where it spins freely. Now make sure you keep these guys in contact so that they don't fall off because we're not replacing. So we have this guy loose now. Make sure you keep something under so this doesn't fall and bottom out. I'm going to keep my leg here as support, but I'll try to use like a toolbox or something, like a little portable toolbox that you can keep right here to keep it afloat, or a jack stand will work perfect. Then we're just going to go ahead and pull back. Alright, so at this point, if your car has this, if not, no biggie. We're going to go ahead and separate this boot from right here. Hopefully I just only have to take off one side. Again, this is my first time doing it on a Silverado. So I'm going to go ahead and space this guy right out. But at this point, now what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and mark this guy with this piece, because that could mess up our balance. So this is this is balanced the way how it is when they first put it on, so we need to make sure everything goes back together. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this so you guys can see pretty well. So as I pull back this guy, you see these grooves right here. Make sure you don't pull it out all the way before you mark it. So I'll mark this guy. So I'm gonna make my own markings, make sure that area is clean, and then we'll mark both spots right there. So when I come down to put this back in, these two need to line up so I don't have any vibration. If you do get vibration, then try to check your work again. Alright, so at this point, I think you can get like a flat head and just pry this guy back a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece off. Make sure you don't touch this or this guy. You don't want to damage these two. So I'm going to get a grinder. You don't have to use this method. You can actually take it to the shop and press it in. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get more of an experience on this. So if I mess up, oh well, it's on my case. But still, if you're going to cut it yourself, I'm just trying to help you guys. Trying to see if it's doable just like this way if I'm doing it. Get your safety glasses and then some earmuffs. So now we're going to go ahead and cut the bearing race. Make sure you don't hit this piece. You just want to keep on the top piece. And then we'll hit it with the cold chisel right after to break it, just like how I did for this guy. Now you need to be very extremely careful with this process because again, this can make it very expensive if you don't do this process right. So I like to cut at an angle and do it on both sides instead of going like this because the grinder will hit right here. I kind of nipped it right here, but that ain't gonna do anything. So again, cut at an angle. First we're gonna cut off these bearings and then go from right there. You're going to go ahead and inspect your surface, make sure you didn't cut through. If you nipped it, then that's no biggie. Again, you don't want to take too much. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm perfect too. I've have cut through before, but I actually wanted to actually cut a little bit more through this so where once I chisel it, this spacer will crack, but by cutting on both sides I kind of released the tension and it was, you know, it wasn't that much of too much tension on, and I was able to separate it without doing a little bit extra work. Now I got to measure this to see what diameter I'm going to have. So I'm going to get a micrometer. So I'm at 156 inches or 39.8 millimeters. So it's gonna be like the 40 millimeters. So I'm gonna go get that part right now and then we'll get back to the process. So now we're gonna go ahead and clean up our area. I'm using 1000 grit, but you could use like 400 would be pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and lubricate it. I'm using wheel bearing grease. Now the reason why I'm doing this is so that when I'm installing the new bearing, it makes it easier for install. So here's our new center support bearing. I'm gonna have to transfer this guy out from this one over to the new one. So just this bottom piece. So we're gonna get to that one right now. We don't really need to worry about it right now at this moment. So we'll go ahead and worry about that during installation. Now keep in mind, there's a front and a reverse. The front's gonna go towards the transmission. Make sure that this cup is facing towards the transmission. So you don't want it facing backwards and it's gonna hit this. So this, remember, this is gonna face towards the transmission, and then this piece for the arrow is gonna face towards the transmission. If it's on backwards, just like how this was earlier, obviously it's gonna be wrong and it's gonna confuse you. So just go by of how it's gonna be right there. Now the way how we're gonna go ahead and install this is I went to go buy some exhaust piping. It doesn't have to be 18 inches. You just have to, it's probably like a good like 7 or 9 inches. So about that. It's the 1 inch and 3/4 inner diameter. There's the part number 17621 that I'm using. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this guy so I could use it for the install, because I don't want it too far out. We're gonna see how much we're gonna measure. So I'm about to cut like about that much, so about like 8 inches. So I'm gonna cut that right now and then get back to that piece. Alright, so we're gonna make sure that we're not hitting on the cut side. If you are gonna hit on the cut side, you wanna make sure it's flat as possible. So like a smooth one, just like this side. Obviously mine's not perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and put this guy right in, and we're gonna make sure, so this is gonna be the bearing itself. And we're gonna make sure that this is sitting on this inner race. This is what you wanna hit. You don't wanna hit the outside, you don't wanna hit the plastic piece, because if you hit that, you're gonna go ahead and just damage the wheel bearing and make you gotta do the job again. So again, you're gonna hit the inner race. And just like that, that's how you install the bearing. So see how smooth that went? It's nice and smooth. You got to make sure you spin this after you do the job. So the wheel bearing grease helps out a lot. Now you could either use your old cup if it came with it. This is actually still good, in good condition, but we don't need that. We got a new one. So we're gonna go ahead and put this guy right on. So I guess I am gonna have to use my old one. The other one's actually a lot more smaller. For this guy, for the center support bearing, I know I didn't show it, but it's gonna bottom out, and then that's how you're gonna leave it. And then obviously this piece right here, the cup, you shouldn't have, should be like that. So it's gonna sit pretty flush with that. Might have like a slight little lip. So now we're gonna go ahead and tap these bolts out. So you can put a socket right here. Now if you're going to reuse those bolts, I would suggest you putting back your nut so you don't damage the threads. But I'm not going to worry about that. So now we're going to go ahead and put this over onto our new one. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and make sure that this is facing towards the front. And then we'll put this guy right on. And then we're going to go back to the car and bolt this right back up. Well, before we do that, we need to clean up this area. Make sure you still have your white mark. We will lubricate this with wheel bearing grease too. Not a crazy lot. We'll just go ahead and just do the beginning. And there you have it. There's our marks. I think this does only go in one way, but still, I'd rather be safe than sorry. We're going to be using a zip tie. This one's like a really thick one, so make sure it's the same length. And you want to put as much force as possible so you can see that I'm pulling back as much as I can and it's not coming off. Then we'll go ahead and cut this right off, and now we're going to go back to the installation on the car. Alright, so before we put this guy in, make sure it's clean, no debris are in there. And we're going to start off with this guy first, and then we'll go ahead and we'll bolt this guy up, and then we'll go ahead and put our yoke, or we'll put in our rear second, and then we'll put this guy in third. Now, if your U-joints don't line up with your yoke on the differential side, you can put your car in neutral, and so that the tranny can move freely. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do right now, since I don't have my wheels in the air. Okay, now that we got this guy bolted in, make sure that these notches aren't going against the U-joint itself. So make sure that these guys sit in nice and flush, just like that. Alright, so now we got this bolted down. Make sure there's no gap in between here. See, it's nice and firm. If this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up, comment below, and then hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future. And thanks for watching.